Hey guys, Furum here, and today I'm going to be testing the Italdesign Davinci in multiplayer in Asphalt 9 at Golden Max in the Earth Day multiplayer season. Now this is a Ghost Slipstream season, so it should favor the faster cars. And since there are a lot of much faster cars in this season, since the one I'm in, I'm testing this car at lower leagues, and even then there's a Batista in my race here. I mean, you can't escape them completely. But let's talk about this car. It is a D-Class car, and it's very similar to the Porsche TAYCAN, but it is presumably going to be a free-to-play car. And the only way you will be able to get it is in one of the 1 vs 1 multiplayer mode seasons. Now, we don't have any details as to how specifically it will be obtained. I might think that it would be the top prize for winning 12 races, or maybe you have to win a certain number of them when the season is open. I don't know how it will be yet. I'll be sure to give you guys more information whenever I do have the details on that, because this car does seem to be pretty good. It's not the best D-Class car, it's not going to be king, but being a free-to-play TAYCAN basically is pretty cool if you ask me, because the TAYCAN can do quite some damage on some tracks like the Caribbean, but it's not very well known because not many people have it. I mean, how often do you see them in multiplayer? Basically never. I do have a couple of videos about the TAYCAN up on my channel if you would like to check it out, but this car is going to basically bring that car to be more accessible to more people. So here we pass the apex toward the end of the race because he takes a longer route. Thankfully, even though he's riding on my slipstream and is about 42 miles per hour faster than me, yeah, 222 versus 180 miles per hour, he's unable to catch up. But now we're in a race on Himalayas against some cars which aren't quite as fast as that one, but still a lot of them are a good bit faster than me. And yeah, this car does not have the perfect nitro thingy that the TAYCAN does, if you were wondering about that. The perfect nitro and the single nitro and the shockwave, everything goes 180 miles per hour. It doesn't go up with any of them, which is kind of unfortunate because I feel like this would have been a good car to make do that, especially if it's really intended to be like a competitor to the TAYCAN, but it is still pretty good regardless of that. I didn't really have many problems with driving this car. It was pretty fun. However, there was one thing about it that I did notice right off the bat, that if you drive this car, you're going to have to be careful with too. When you are in Shockwave, you basically cannot turn. It is one of the worst handling cars in Shockwave that I have ever tested, which is extremely weird, because normally it handles quite well. I mean, I'm just driving around like an Elise or a Janetta, or take your pick really. It's a pretty agile car overall. You're really not going to have any problems driving it, except for this one weird feature, which I don't know why I call it a feature, because it's more of a downside more than anything else, but I guess, hey, a downside can be kind of a feature. Anyway, the Elise does kind of suffer from this problem too, although not as much as this car does. But if you've noticed it in the Elise, you will definitely notice it here. So there, we did beat one pin in Farina, but the one that was above 3,000 rank did manage to beat us, which makes sense. And here, we have a TAYCAN. I'm pretty sure it's the only one that I saw when testing this car in this season, because there aren't any more in the video, and I don't remember seeing any others in other races that I did that didn't end up being in the video. So yeah, quite a rare car. But it's one that I'm probably going to try to get if it is easy enough and doesn't cost too many tokens, because recently I played the Ferrari 599XX car hunt and managed to get the key, meaning that I maxed the car. And I barely had any blueprints for it before that, and the drop rates were horrendous. I was getting about 1 blueprint on average for every refill, so that's 1 blueprint per 50 tokens or 15 packs, however you want to think about it. And yeah, right there, you could see that I just shockwaved and rammed straight into the wall. No, that wasn't me driving into the wall, it was just the car not wanting to turn. But anyway, yeah, with that special event, I spent so much on refills because it was just ridiculous, and I really, really wanted to get that car. So now, I don't have a whole lot of tokens left, and I've decided to not go for the Imola after all, because as someone pointed out on my stream the other day, I have the Valhalla at 4 stars. The Valhalla is probably not going anywhere anytime soon. And if I got the Imola, even at 1 star, it'd cost me several thousand tokens, and it would not be as good as my Valhalla or probably some of my other higher end A-class cars. So there's really not much point to me actually going for it, especially when there's a car like the 599XX, which is pretty good in C-Class and fills a spot toward the top of C-Class that I don't have any other car to fill. It's not as good as a car like the Gallardo or the Bentley Mulliner Bacalar, but both of those are Legend Pass cars, and the 599XX Evo is the closest thing that I can get in C-Class to those without buying the Legend Pass. And it was one that I had wanted to get, or kind of kicked myself for not going for back in the Ferrari season, because I was saving for what turned out to be the La Voiture Nord Drive Syndicate, and we all know how that turned out. So I'd been wanting to get the 599XX Evo ever since, and I finally did get it, so I definitely will be making a video about that at some point. I'd be quite interested to see how it does in Gold League, or maybe even in Platinum League. I don't usually test C-Class cars in Platinum League, because generally the A-Class cars are just quite a bit faster at that point, and it's not really much good competition. But maybe B-Class, we'll see. Whenever the current season ends, because I'm in Legend League there, as you probably have seen if you watched my stream this past weekend. But when the season flips over, definitely I want to test it out. Also, I've recorded some races in my newly maxed Corvette ZR1, which I finally got the remaining few blueprints for. I was sitting like 3 short for months or something like that. I don't remember exactly how much it was, but I finally got that too. That car is one that, again, you really don't hear too much about, because it was a car in the Rimac special event. Most people got it to 3 stars because that's what you needed it for in that event, to be the most efficient, and it was easy enough, and you didn't really have to spend any tokens even to get it to that point. So most people did that who ended up going for the Rimac. But then you probably never bought any blueprints for it again, because it's not a king of its class. It's quite good, but it's nowhere near as good as like the Imola or Valhalla or the Aperta or the Genti or any of those high-end A-class cars. It's quite good, but just not the king, and so nobody's really interested in going for it again. But over time, I've just collected some blueprints for it through packs and stuff, never bought any, because it was actually the car that I threw all of my extra Syndicate coins into at the end of the Rimac Drive Syndicate, and so I got it actually pretty close to 4 stars at that point. I may have even gotten it to 4 stars then, I don't quite remember, but I've maxed it now, and it's pretty good. I've begun to realize how much easier it is in many cases to star up or unlock older cars in the game because they've become available in the Legend Store or elsewhere, versus a lot of the newer ones, many of which you have to pay to get. It's just very interesting to think about, because cars that used to be quite rare to get, or to get blueprints for, are now becoming more mainstream as they come out in packs and things like that. And so that is why multiplayer is just always kind of shifting and transforming. There will always be the Corvettes and the Huracans in there, but I do think that throughout Asphalt 9's lifetime, we will see pretty much a shift, a very gradual shift, and it's not going to be like, oh, all of a sudden this update, there's all these other cars. You're really not even going to notice it, but eventually, I mean, if you go back and look at multiplayer videos from 2 years ago, say at this point, there's a lot of different cars that are being used quite often, except for all of the Corvettes and Huracans, of course. So in this race, we're facing a 3100 rank Apex. The Apexes were some of the most fun cars for me to go up against, because I knew I was slower than them by around 42 miles per hour. When they're in their perfect nitro, they go 222. But so oftentimes I was actually able to keep ahead of them, or just keep up right with them. Don't entirely know why. I think part of it is due to the fact that I was in lower leagues than I often play, but I didn't want to go high up and get into a situation where everything I was facing was Batistas and stuff like that, which I really wouldn't have much of a chance against at all. So I think I landed at a pretty good spot competitively overall, given player skill and the cars and everything. And what's interesting is that this car is one of the lowest cars in the class, but the weird thing is, it's the only one that's given as a max free try. Have we seen this in any multiplayer season before, where one car, or even just any percentage of cars, are given as max free tries, or just free tries at all, then other ones aren't? I don't remember seeing that before, because in all of the seasons that I can think of, it's either been, oh, all of the cars you have to own and you get them at whatever stars you have them at, or you get a bunch of max free try ones. We've even seen some seasons that paralleled each other in that aspect. We'd have one season that would have a bunch of cars max free try, and then you'd have another season where all the same cars were available, but you just got them at whatever stars you had them at, and you drove your own basically. I think we had that recently with the Fight Fire with Fire season and the Fire and Lightning season, two of the most recent ones in the last update, which was pretty interesting too. It's cool to see that they're trying some new things with multiplayer, and I definitely would not mind seeing something like this again. Honestly, I think this is one of the best ways they can do it, because it allows you to test the new cars, their maximum potential, but against a bunch of other real cars that people already have. So it's like a true test of how this car would do in multiplayer, which I just think is so cool. And for a quick general review, fun to drive, not a king of its class, nearly as good as the TAYCAN, probably going to be pretty good for multiplayer. Thank you all so much for watching. Please like the video if you have enjoyed, and consider subscribing for more Asphalt and other games content. And I will see you in my next video. Goodbye.